This is me 7 weeks out from the Loch Ness Marathon. I'm injured, I'm exhausted, and in all honesty, I just feel like giving up.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this.
Let me explain how we got here.
I'm wearing shades, though it's not sunny. The summer's late, but I can feel it coming in my bones.
My name is Adam, and I decided that 2025 was going to be the year that I finally run a marathon. But my running story actually begins more than 20 years ago, when I was still a teenager in high school.
This is my yearbook photo. As you may be able to guess, I was not a cool kid, I was not a popular kid, and I was most definitely not a sporty kid. I pretty much hated all sports at school, but more than anything, I despised cross-country running. My cross-country running strategy was pretty simple. I would set off at a light jog until I was sure that I was totally clear of the teacher, at which point I would stop and walk. I'd walk until I saw the next teacher, jog past them, go back to the walk, and then repeat until the finish line. Now, I really don't think this was laziness. I think it was just a very deep-rooted belief that I simply was not capable of running any kind of a distance without stopping. And it probably won't come as any surprise to you that I did not run for a very long time after I left school, when I was no longer being forced to, until 2014, when for some reason that I'm still not entirely sure of, I decided that I was going to join some of my work colleagues in running a 10k in Aberdeen for charity. And to my amazement, I managed to get through the training and also run the 10 kilometers on the day without stopping. In 2015, I married my dream girl, and for various different life reasons, my running then stalled again until a little something you may recall in 2020 called the COVID pandemic. To help deal with the stress of lockdown, I started running on my lunch breaks, and that culminated in running a half marathon in 2022, which again, to my amazement, I ran without stopping. Just bear with me a second. Found them. These are both achievements that I'm still really proud of.
Now, you may be detecting a slightly somber and depressed look in my eyes there. The reason for that is that 3 weeks into my marathon training program, I managed to quite badly injure my right knee. I was running down a hill that I run down pretty much every single week when suddenly something just went in my knee. I went to see a physio who told me that I'd likely damaged something called my meniscus in my right knee, and that I was probably looking at a 4 to 6 week recovery, which is not what you want to hear when you're just starting off on a 16-week marathon training plan.
Just in case you haven't figured this out yet, I am not a medical professional. If you have an injury, please don't use this video as any kind of medical advice. Go book an appointment with a physio. So here's the thing. Running has been a hugely positive and beneficial endeavor for me. It's been amazing for my physical health, amazing for my mental health. It's been a great way to get to explore new places and also just have my own space to think. But what it all comes down to is that running just makes me feel more like me. The sensible course of action here would probably be to take my time in recovering, but I really want to run this marathon. Step one to making that happen is to totally rework my training plan to account for the fact that I have a lot less time than I did, but also not wanting to rush things too much with my knee. The focus is steadily increasing my long run distance so that I'm ready for the final 42.2 kilometers on race day. My printer doesn't seem to be functioning quite correctly, but that would seem to serve as quite a good metaphorical narrative device, so I'm happy. Next, I need to strengthen and rehabilitate my knee, so I've been doing various leg exercises. This includes standing on one leg with my eyes shut, which is something my physio suggested. It's actually a bit harder than it sounds. And then it's time to start running again, starting out on grass just to limit the impact on my knee, and then when my body feels ready, moving back onto pavement. I'm also making sure to run up as many hills as I can find. As it turns out, the Loch Ness Marathon is quite hilly. A lot of downhill, which is how I injured myself in the first place, but also a lot of quite big uphills, including one particular bad boy at 30 kilometers known as the Monster. And step 4 is to just not give up. This was me directly after my 22 kilometer long run. My knee hadn't felt sore as such in a number of weeks, but it was fatiguing when I was running faster than it should be. Step 4 is proving to be the most difficult. For all intents and purposes, this was only half the distance that I'd need to be doing on race day, and it had taken everything.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this.
Marathon day was going to be that, plus another 20.2 kilometers. Running a marathon, let alone without stopping, felt impossible. Physically, emotionally, mentally, I probably didn't even have another 3 kilometers in me, let alone 20. This was the moment that I really just wanted to stop. But I didn't. I've heard it said that the hardest part of running a marathon is not actually the 42.2 kilometers you'll be running to reach the finish line. The hard part is the hundreds and hundreds of kilometers you'll be running to get yourself ready for the start line. For me, marathon training has meant choosing to get up and run rather than staying in bed.
Really not feeling it today.
It's meant choosing to run regardless of the rain or the heat. It has meant choosing to persevere with long runs that just get longer and longer. It's meant choosing to ignore my body and my mind just screaming at me to stop. And when I've been forced to stop, it's meant choosing to start up again. Now that I've completed the majority of my training, I feel that this part of the journey deserves its own conclusion. Maybe I can run this marathon without stopping, maybe I can't, but either way, I've already accomplished far more than I ever thought I was capable of. All that's left to say is, bring it on, marathon.
One of the really tricky parts of training for a marathon is trying to fit in all the training runs around a busy family life and a full-time job. And in that regard, I'm really lucky to be married to a very supportive wife who has been very accommodating in terms of letting me disappear for hours at the weekend to get my long runs in. She really is an extraordinary, amazing woman, and as part of her job she collaborates with an organisation called Aber Necessities. So I've decided to run the Loch Ness Marathon for them. It would mean a tremendous amount if you would consider donating. I've put a link in the description below.